Listen closely, because what I'm about to tell you could save you from the kind of heartbreak most men never see coming. Studies in dark psychology have shown that cheating doesn't happen randomly, it follows patterns, timing, and hidden psychological triggers. And here's the disturbing part: there are specific hours in the day when a woman is most likely to betray her partner. Not because she suddenly stops caring, but because her brain, her emotions, and her environment line up in dangerous ways. This isn't about judging women. It's about understanding human behavior when loyalty collides with temptation. Think about it: if timing plays such a powerful role in decisions like this, then a simple moment in the day could be the difference between trust and betrayal. Most men walk around blind to these signals, convinced that cheating is unpredictable. But science tells a different story. If you've ever wondered why someone who swore they loved you could still step into someone else's arms, the answer might not lie in if they'll cheat, but when they are most likely to. And once you know this, you'll never look at relationships the same way again. Before we dive deeper, do me a quick favor: hit that like button and subscribe. Not just to support this channel, but because what you're about to learn will change how you see trust, love, and betrayal forever. The hidden psychology of timing: cheating rarely happens in a sudden burst of passion like the movies show. In reality, it's a slow buildup of psychological pressure mixed with timing. The truth is, human behavior follows rhythms, daily cycles where our emotions, energy, and impulses shift. Scientists call these circadian rhythms, and they don't just control sleep or appetite. They also influence self-control, mood, and decision-making. Think about it: there are moments when you feel strong, focused, and resistant to temptation, and there are moments when your guard drops without you even realizing. Now, apply that same concept to relationships. If someone is already emotionally restless or unsatisfied, certain times of the day become the perfect crack in the armor where betrayal can slip through. Psychologists studying infidelity found that cheating doesn't peak randomly. It often lines up with the hours when self-control is at its lowest. And here's where it gets dark: temptation doesn't always come from a grand plan. Sometimes it's as simple as being in the wrong place, at the wrong time, with the wrong person, when the brain is least prepared to resist. For example, early mornings are usually the safe zone. People are rested, responsibilities are ahead of them, and their minds are focused. But as the day goes on, stress builds, discipline drains, and emotional needs grow louder. This creates windows of vulnerability, where the desire for escape or attention feels stronger than the commitment to stay faithful. Here's a chilling detail: studies on decision fatigue show that the more choices a person makes throughout the day, the weaker their ability to say no becomes. Every tiny decision: what to wear, how to respond to a message, what to eat, chips away at mental strength. By the time evening hits, resisting temptation doesn't feel like strength, it feels like exhaustion. That's why timing matters so much in betrayal. It's not just about whether someone loves you. It's about whether their psychology at that exact moment makes them more likely to silence their conscience and chase a temporary escape. Betrayal, in this sense, isn't always premeditated. It's often opportunistic, triggered by timing, mood, and the human tendency to give in when willpower runs dry. When you understand that, cheating starts to look less like a mystery and more like a predictable pattern. And once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. Morning innocence versus afternoon weakness. Morning often feels safe in relationships. People wake up with a clearer head, their body is rested, and there's a sense of responsibility tied to the day ahead. If you've noticed, arguments, betrayals, and risky behaviors rarely happen first thing in the morning. That's because willpower, like a battery, is freshly charged. At this point, the brain is still disciplined, cautious, and more likely to think about consequences. But as the day stretches forward, something subtle begins to happen. Psychologists describe it as ego depletion, a gradual draining of self-control as the hours pass. Every decision, every stress, every little act of restraint eats away at that mental battery. By afternoon, even the most loyal person might find it harder to resist impulses they could easily ignore in the morning. Now, here's where it turns dark. Infidelity doesn't always come from someone actively looking to cheat. Many times, it slips in during moments of weakness. Afternoon hours are notorious for this. Stress is high, the mind is tired, and people begin craving distraction. That's when a friendly chat with a coworker, a harmless text to an old flame, or a secret online interaction feels comforting. What starts as an escape quickly transforms into something deeper. Studies in workplace psychology show that most inappropriate emotional connections between colleagues start in the afternoon. It's not a coincidence, it's the exact time when discipline is lowest, and emotional needs start shouting louder than rational thought. Someone who would never dream of stepping outside the relationship in the morning may suddenly rationalize it in the afternoon. It's just a message, it doesn't mean anything. But that one message is the seed of betrayal. The danger of the afternoon isn't just weakness. It's also the illusion of harmlessness. People convince themselves that what they are doing is innocent because the mind, in its tired state, craves relief more than truth. That's why many affairs don't begin with bold decisions. They begin with small lapses that feel too minor to matter, until they grow into something impossible to hide. And here's a chilling realization: the person cheating may not even fully understand why it happened then and there. They often explain it as a slip, a moment of weakness, or not thinking straight. But if you trace the psychology, it's tied to the simple fact that the afternoon is when the brain is most vulnerable. It's the silent window where innocence fades, and weakness begins to take control. So when people ask, how could she cheat at that time of day, the answer is brutally simple: because that's when the human mind is least prepared to resist. Evening temptations and nighttime secrets. Evening carries a different kind of danger. The sun goes down, responsibilities fade, and people slip into their private selves. This is when the masks worn during the day come off. Psychologists often say that night reveals the side of a person that daylight keeps hidden. In relationships, that's where temptation becomes the strongest. During the evening, emotional cravings mix with physical exhaustion. The brain has been drained by an entire day of decisions, stress, and self-control. By night, the rational voice that says, "Don't do this," becomes faint, while the emotional voice screams louder. That's why most risky decisions, not just cheating but gambling, impulsive shopping, and even crime, peak after sunset. It's not random, it's psychology. Think about it. Night offers cover. Fewer eyes are watching, fewer responsibilities press down, and secrecy feels easier. This creates the perfect storm for betrayal. A woman who may never dare to text another man at lunch might feel completely comfortable doing it at midnight. The quiet makes her believe no one will notice. The darkness gives her a false sense of safety. Technology makes this even more dangerous. Late at night, phones become portals to secret conversations. DMs, private chats, and hidden calls often happen in these hours. Studies in digital behavior show that people are far more likely to send risky, emotionally charged messages at night. It feels private, intimate, and free of consequence, even when the consequences are deadly for a relationship. And here's where psychology cuts deep: nighttime activates fantasy. The brain, already tired, starts to wander. People romanticize, replay old memories, and imagine new scenarios. Combine that with loneliness or dissatisfaction in a relationship, and night becomes the hour of hidden affairs. Some affairs don't even require physical presence, just those intimate online conversations that feel more real in the silence of midnight. There's also something primal about the dark. Humans have always associated night with danger, secrecy, and desire. Even in modern times, the instincts remain. Night lowers inhibition and raises risk-taking. What seems unthinkable at 10 a.m. feels thrilling at 10 p.m. That's why so many betrayals are born in the quiet hours, carried out in whispers, and buried in digital shadows. The saddest part: many of these nighttime betrayals are not carefully planned. They are impulsive, fueled by exhaustion, desire, and the illusion of secrecy. A single text sent at 1 a.m. can destroy years of trust. One hidden call in the dark can unravel a relationship built in the light. Evening temptations are not about opportunity alone, they are about vulnerability. The night opens the door, lowers defenses, and whispers to the mind that no one will ever know. But the truth is, secrets created in darkness eventually find their way into the light. Psychological triggers behind infidelity. Timing. Cheating doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's not just about opportunity, it's about psychological triggers that make certain moments more dangerous than others. When we talk about timing, we're really talking about the hidden switches in the brain that, once pressed, make betrayal far more likely. One of the strongest triggers is stress relief. After a long, draining day, the brain craves escape. For some, that escape is Netflix or food. For others, it becomes attention from someone else. Research on emotional regulation shows that when people feel emotionally neglected or unappreciated, they are more likely to seek comfort outside their relationship during high-stress moments, often in the evening or late at night. It's not always about passion, sometimes it's about the desperate need to feel seen. Another powerful trigger is loneliness within the relationship. You can be sitting next to your partner on the couch and still feel completely alone. That emotional gap becomes especially loud at night when the distractions fade. A woman who feels unheard or undervalued might not go searching during the day, but when silence surrounds her at night, the absence of connection becomes unbearable. That's when the temptation to message someone else slips in. Then there's the dopamine factor. Dopamine is the brain's reward chemical, released when we experience pleasure or novelty. When the routine of a relationship feels dull, the brain quietly craves something new, something exciting. Late-night messages or secret conversations provide that dopamine hit, almost like a drug. Neuroscientists have compared the rush of a secret flirtation to the same brain activity triggered by gambling or addictive substances. It's thrilling, it's dangerous, and that danger makes it even harder to resist. Another subtle but deadly trigger is ego validation. If someone feels undervalued, dismissed, or invisible in their current relationship, the smallest compliment from another person can feel intoxicating. The brain latches onto it, magnifies it, and suddenly that attention feels irresistible. Timing plays into this. Late at night, when insecurities are louder and confidence is lower, validation from someone else becomes far more tempting. And we can't ignore the decision fatigue effect. Every choice you make during the day, from work decisions to family responsibilities, chips away at your self-control. By the time night comes, your brain's ability to resist temptation is weakened. That's why risky behavior, impulsive actions, and secret betrayals so often happen after dark. It's not just bad choices, it's a brain too tired to keep fighting them. Put all of these triggers together and you see the truth: infidelity is not random. It follows patterns, fueled by psychology, biology, and timing. Stress, loneliness, dopamine, validation, and decision fatigue, these are the hidden forces that decide when betrayal feels easiest. Cheating doesn't just happen because someone is bad. It happens because certain psychological triggers meet the perfect moment of weakness. And those moments, more often than not, happen when the day fades and the mind is most vulnerable. How to recognize and protect against these patterns? If timing and psychology create the perfect storm for betrayal, then the real power lies in recognizing the patterns before they destroy a relationship. Awareness is protection. Once you understand the signs, you stop being blindsided. The first step is paying attention to emotional withdrawal. If she suddenly becomes distant during those high-risk hours, avoiding conversation in the evening, scrolling her phone late at night, or guarding her privacy more than usual, it's not always innocent. It may not confirm cheating, but it signals an emotional shift. Those moments are where emotional gaps open, and gaps are exactly where infidelity grows. The second layer of protection is communication before temptation strikes. Research shows that couples who openly discuss boundaries and emotional needs have a significantly lower risk of betrayal. That doesn't mean paranoia or constant suspicion. It means addressing the silence before it turns into secrecy. If you sense her pulling away, especially in the evenings when those triggers hit hardest, it's better to ask uncomfortable questions than to live in denial. Another powerful safeguard is recognizing patterns of secrecy. Psychology teaches us that cheating thrives on micro-habits, Sudden changes in phone habits, late night work that doesn't add up, or bursts of energy that don't match the day. Individually, these things might mean nothing. Together, they create a pattern. Once you see it, you can no longer ignore it. But here's something darker: sometimes it's not about catching betrayal, it's about preventing the soil where betrayal grows. That means feeding the relationship with attention, validation, and intimacy. Remember the triggers: stress, loneliness, lack of validation, decision fatigue. If you recognize that these triggers open doors for betrayal, then your job is to help close those doors. A partner who feels valued and understood is less likely to seek dopamine hits elsewhere. Yet, protection also means protecting yourself. Many men fall into the trap of thinking they can fix everything if they just try harder. But psychology is clear: cheating is a choice. If she steps into that pattern, despite emotional availability, support, and clarity, then the responsibility is hers, not yours. Protecting yourself means respecting your boundaries. If respect is gone, it's better to walk away than to stay chained to betrayal. And here's the uncomfortable truth: prevention isn't just about trust, it's about timing awareness. If you know the vulnerable hours, late nights, stressed evenings, emotionally charged weekends, you stay alert. You don't become paranoid, but you stop being blind. At the end of the day, betrayal is less about chance and more about patterns. If you can see the patterns, you can either stop them, or save yourself before they consume you. The smartest move isn't to live in fear of being cheated on. The smartest move is to live with awareness, clarity, and enough self-respect to recognize when something doesn't feel right. Because in psychology, denial is the most dangerous lie we tell ourselves, and awareness is the one thing that can save you.